Peace and blessings, YouTube. Again, it's always an honor, privilege, and pleasure to come before you. This is the Ripper. Now, this is going to get a little controversial, and I believe it needs to, because, I'm going to just speak very candidly and open this morning. And I want to start off by just saying, if you can't handle it, then just turn this video off now. But I want to start off by talking about the situation with both Kyrie, Irving, and Kanye West, and multiple brothers throughout history who have stood up and who have been attacked by the so-called Jews of this country and this world, so-called Jews. And it's almost as though we have to keep proving or explaining our case, but we never ask them to explain theirs. Don't ask me to prove why I'm a Jew, disprove it. But we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to say no men that don't respect their women can be respected at all. That's the first reason why black men don't get respect. The main reason why we don't get respect is because we don't respect our women. We don't cultivate our women. We mistreat our women. We talk down on our women, even in, of course, the music, even though they give us money to call our women bitches and hoes and give us money to degrade our women. You know, that's our fault for doing that. We are so in love with money and materialism that we are willing to compromise truth and the future of our people. What matters most is your women. What matters most is land. What matters most is cultivation of a nation, more than money. Money is not going to give us what we need. That's not going to, and we've seen that throughout history. Money is not enough to give us what we need right now. So why are these brothers not standing up and speaking out against these so-called, and these NFL and NBA owners actually disrespect the brothers to their face? They say nigga all the time. They disrespect them to their face. They showed us, even with the Colin Kaepernick situation, that they don't respect us and they don't even consider our case. But I want to get to all of that in a minute. I want to first start off with go down in history. I'm gonna go down the timeline really briefly and just discuss why the blacks are the chosen people of God and why we are the true Jews. First of all, the Caucasian as we know it, the white race, is a concocted race from a system of birth control out of the black race. This took 600 years. Now, this is scientific proof in history, and we can go further down the rabbit hole. Just follow me for a minute. 6,000 years ago, a scientist by the name of Jacob decided that actually the decision was not his. It was God that gave him the talent and the decision to actually come about this, because it took a scientific genius to make this happen. But to create a people, he decided that I want to create a people out of the law of attraction, differences and unalike to the like. So what happened is he decided to make a people that would actually bow down and live their life according to wicked law and wicked rulership. This took 600 years. And what happened, he concocted these races of people out of the original, the black and the red. We know them, we call them today the Indian, the African, and the Aboriginal people, the original people. But every other race of people, from the yellow from the brown to the yellow to the white, it took 200 years each race, from the brown to the yellow to the white being the last to get here out of this system of birth control. And they're doing that today with stem cell research. If you know where to find this research properly, they're trying this all the time in the labs today with cloning and GMO foods. They're on a baby level compared to what we did, but they're trying to figure out how they were created. Actually, the whites are doing this. This is all secret stuff that they're not going to admit to. But I'm just creating a case for us. So we created them, made them out of the brown germ of the black man. That's how the other races got here, including the white race, out of a system of birth control, out of the original. Okay? It's not their white skin that makes them wicked. Let's be very clear. It's not the whiteness of their skin that makes them evil. What it is that they were more accepted and recessive to wicked teachings. So Jacob knew this. He knew that they were genetically inferior and that they were more prone to behaving in the way that he would like them to. Because the closer you got to the original, the more righteous and divine their nature. So you can't teach them righteousness because that's the original nature. The unoriginal nature is wickedness. That's anti-nature. That's the opposite of righteousness, which is wickedness. And that's why when you look at the Caucasians' actions, they seem to be so wicked and cold and evil spirited, especially toward us, because that's the way we made them. Now, this is all scientific. We don't have to get emotional or upset about it. Let's continue to go down the rabbit hole. I just want to break this down really briefly because it's going to answer a lot of our questions and bring us to where we are now in history. So they were given, after we made them, they were in Africa actually during this time, but they turned Africa with their nature after several years of living amongst the righteous people in the Holy Land. They were so wicked, causing bloodshed and lies, and we saw that. So what happened? We cable towed them across the desert to Europe, which is the caves and hillsides. That's what Europe means, caves and hillsides bound into one, almost like a jail or prison. Europe was just caves and hillsides. So we sent them to the caves and hillsides for 2,000 years. They still hate us to this day for doing that to their fathers, cable towing them across the desert. And we left them in a condition where they lost their humanity. They actually turned savage, got on their all fours. They looked more like apes. If you go look at the movie Quest for Fire, this came out in the 80s. The movie Quest for Fire breaks this down and really shows you the condition that they were in the caves and hillsides for 2,000 years. Okay? So, speeding it up, coming up another 2,000 years, Musa or Moses was sent there to civilize them, to civilize the Caucasian out of that condition of savagery. And, they didn't cook their food, they didn't bathe. Disease permeated Europe for thousands of years. Every disease that we know that's known to man came from Europe. We didn't have disease in Africa because we had so many plants and herbs, and just the basic herbs that we apply now come from Africa. So if you go there and get in the mix and get in this culture of Africa, there are fruits and vegetables that can cure any and every disease. And Dr. Sebi showed us that as well. But moving on, the Caucasian is civilized, starts to learn knowledge of self, starts to learn the value of water, the value of how to cook their food, because they didn't cook their food, they ate raw flesh. That's where the vampire, not theory, but the vampire character comes from. It's from they ate raw flesh in Europe. Okay, now these are the Caucasians I'm talking about. After Musa civilized them and taught them the knowledge of self and gave them brought them back to themselves, they were so angry at us cutting their rulership short. They said, we'll show you what we think. We'll take yours, like you cable towed ours. We'll take yours. And they had us in chains and ropes coming to the Western Hemisphere. They had us coming. Now, this is later on, after we civilized them, because they had the Dark Ages, which was another couple thousand years. We're at the final 2,000 years now. This is the final stage we're in right now, and this time we're living in. But the 4,000th year was when they started to come into power from Musa's teachings, and they started to become more civilized, and they were supposed to rule. They were supposed to go on their quest for rulership. This is the timeline. So moving on, they decided that the best way for us to get back at these people for doing our ancestors like that, we'll cable tow them. But the difference is the blacks that came to America came here mercilessly against their will. And they didn't bring niggas over here. They brought scientists and engineers over here. You don't build America like how we built America as slaves. We invented everything. How could a slave have genius creativity? We created culture. We invented everything. We invented the air conditioning, the traffic light, the refrigerator, the vehicle, everything the elevator. The black man invented everything that we use today and see its value. The black man invented. Even the food that we eat, the way we cook our food, the culture behind cooking food, the music, culture, art, everything we are the root of. Moving on. So They decided to bring scientists and engineers over here to build America. We were black, and this was 310 years of chattel slavery, which means we did not get compensated for our labor. We did not get compensated for our labor as chattel slaves. So as chattel slaves, we were treated with the worst of treatment. They murdered our people, hung our people, lynched our people, castrated our people, destroyed babies, and raped our women, raped our children. This is what we suffered in America as chattel slaves for 310 years. They had sex stables. They had to break us down spiritually to make us more submissive to wicked rule. You can't rule the blacks with righteousness. You rule them with wickedness, and that's what they did. So after this, after the 310 years of chattel slavery, there was another 100 years of lynching and Jim Crow. And that is what these current white people in positions of power don't want to admit to, is that you all redlined us and kept us out of the wealth, kept us out of how access to get wealth, access to build and be an independent nation. Because that is what any respected people have to have: land and access to resources to provide and produce for themselves. And they locked us out of that, kept us here licking their boots to get scraps from the crumbs from their table so that we won't produce. So when you see these brothers in the NFL and NBA, they were just trying to get out of the hood. They don't have any real knowledge of self unless they've been taught that at a young age. These brothers don't really have knowledge of self. They were just trying to get out of poverty. That's why they played football and basketball at a young age. So now that they're coming into consciousness and truth, and they want their people to do the same, and they have the money and resources to make that happen, now you see these evil white people coming out condemning them. And let me just be very clear: they're not the true Jews. They say that, now these are the Caucasians, they say that they fulfilled that prophecy of, you know, the suffering people and giving a land. They say that the Holocaust was their suffering. The Holocaust was their suffering, and that they deserved land from that suffering. And that is why they are the chosen people of God, because they suffered from under Hitler, who was actually financed by Jews. By the way, he was financed by Jews to create a fake Holocaust to steal land from the Palestinians. So the Holocaust was a made up, concocted lie to justify taking land from the Palestinians. Because if the Holocaust was real, now follow me, if the Holocaust was what really happened, why didn't they give them land in Europe where they suffered? Why would they go halfway across the world to take land from innocent people? So that's a basic, simple fact right there. We can go talk about that at another time. Just feed on that for a minute. Because if it was true, why didn't they give you all land in Europe where you suffered? Why would you go to Palestine and take land from innocent people? Okay, moving on. So now we're in 2022, and the Jews, the so-called Jews, say that we are not the Hebrews and we are not the chosen people of God, when we were brought here to America mercilessly against our will, served America for 400 years, suffered the worst treatment, never were given an opportunity. They say we're free, but we don't take advantage of our freedom. We don't have the rights and privileges of a free people. We don't exercise that freedom like others do. So how are we free when we steady begging white people for crumbs, begging them for jobs? Who run these organizations? We're the talent. The black man is the talent. We don't need y'all sucking our blood, making money off of us. The people come to see us when we're out there performing, running and catching, shooting, whatever we're doing, entertaining. They come to see us. So why aren't we benefiting off our own talent? See, let's talk real. Let's talk for real. Let's stop BSing, because the reality is so obvious. It's just people are so afraid and cowardly to stand up to the truth. I mean, just punctified people who don't want to stand up and want to keep sentencing this to further generations. It stops now. I'm warning our people right now. It stops right now. Either you get some courage about yourself and stand up and face this enemy, or you'll be killed. God is going to kill you because you don't justify your existence being a coward. All these people have done is treat us evil, and we're going to bow down to them and allow them to tell us and dictate to us what we should be doing and who we are as a people. Who are they to tell us who we are? We don't have to prove a damn thing. Y'all disprove it to show us why we're not the chosen people of God. Show us why we're not the true Hebrews. Show me, prove it to me. All they can say is they don't want to talk about it. But all they can say is you all are not that. Okay, prove it. And prove that you all are the true people of God. Prove it. How can you be the true people of God promoting homosexuality? How can you be the true people of God engaging in all of the wicked debauchery that you engage in? How can these be the true people of God when all they promote is wickedness and disobedience to the law of God? How could they possibly be the people of God? But then they'll say, well, you black people kill each other. Y'all do it too. But the difference is you have taken the knowledge of self away from the black man. I'm not justifying our actions or saying that we're right in what we're doing as black men. But what I'm saying is we don't have knowledge of self. Elijah Muhammad came and brought us that. So we don't have knowledge of self unless we accept that reality given to us by Elijah Muhammad. Outside of that reality, we don't have knowledge of self. So they can give us money to call our women bitches and hoes and act out this craziness and give us money to do that because we don't have knowledge of self. So you can't compare people who have knowledge of self to people who don't. So you can't say that we're not the people of God because we act out in this craziness when you all create the narrative for our craziness. It's not like we want to act crazy. They create that narrative through gangster rap and through the movies and all of that. And by the way, they own Hollywood. They control all of that. So why are they? The hypocrisy is so crazy. It is so blatant and disrespectful to us. But see, black people are going to tolerate this. We'll be fools to tolerate this from this enemy. Now you see what we're getting closer and closer because now you see more people are starting to wake up. More people are starting to speak out. Of course, the brothers in positions, not just athletes and entertainers, but more brothers in position are starting to speak out. I mean, we need to talk about it. And we need to not just talk about it, but we need to rage in ranks because we are dealing with a very evil people. Of people who have been our enemies since the beginning of their time, which was 6,000 years ago. And you cannot disprove that. This has been the worst enemy of our people. And you're starting to see naked hatred shown toward us. As we continue to move forward, you'll start to really see it. In 2020, that was a scientific experiment. They had to shut the economy down to test the social conditions. It had nothing to do with COVID. What they really wanted to do in 2020 was to see how would the racists intermingle amongst each other in a time of crisis. How would they act when no money is being flowed or rotated? And you saw more violence amongst the races in 2020. That was the experiment. That was a social experiment they did in 2020. It had nothing to do with COVID or a virus. I'm not saying that people didn't get sick, but it was complete BS. It had nothing to do with that because the flu was killing people too years ago. Different flus and colds have killed people. Diabetes. Why are we putting so much focus on that when people have died from illnesses all along? And a vaccine is not the solution. Sunlight, exercise, and proper dieting is. Not one time did they stop showing McDonald's commercials in 2020. Or smoking and drinking alcohol. See, that's what I'm saying. We play games. Let's talk for real. But see, I'm gonna end it here because I want people to just critically think about what we spoke about today. Because, Kyrie, Irving, Kanye West, they're just a sign of you're not rich if they can just take it away from you. How are you a billionaire when they can just strip you of your wealth? You're not free. Are you kidding me? How can they just take what you have earned? How can they just take what's supposed to be yours? You're a slave. I can't live like that. I can't have somebody dictating to me and making me compromise and making me bow down. That's unacceptable. I don't even know how they tolerate that. I don't get our people. I really don't understand it. It's really beyond me. I really don't get it. But only God knows. But I'm excited for the future because we're getting somewhere and we're getting to a very vital time in history. I'm so glad that I'm alive in this day and time to witness the true liberation of our people. We have suffered for 400, almost 500 years in America, really 50,000 years we've suffered. But in recent history, we've suffered the worst out of that 50,000 years, the worst suffering came from the last 500 years. That was the worst part of our suffering. You know, so it's a lot. It's a lot that we haven't been taught. We have truly been miseducated. We do not have a knowledge of self. We do not know our history. We do not wear our own names. We do not have our own religion. Everything we've been taught in America comes from these Caucasians, these so-called Jews, who have stripped us of our identity and put on our clothes, our robes. That's all they've done is steal our identity, because they were in the caves and hillsides of Europe. How the hell are y'all? No, you stole our identity, you know, and you exploit the ignorance of black people. You don't want black people to wake up. You don't want black people to know their true selves in their history, but it's too late. We're waking up. Elijah Muhammad was a sign. He was risen amongst our people to give us a sign of the standard of what is capable, of what the black man and woman is capable of. That's all Elijah Muhammad was for. His example was to give us that we are capable of striving, of being gods. We don't have to live on a level of animals. We don't have to be treated like slaves and disrespected. We can be an industrious, independent people. So I'm going to leave it there, family. It's always an honor and pleasure. Great talking to you. Peace and blessings.